Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I don't really know how to follow that. I'm definitely not going to make anybody cry. But it's a real privilege to be here today and talk to you a little bit about Premier League fandom and how it's changing and how some of the things happening in the marketing industry more broadly are relevant to us at the Premier League. So we're going to start, if you humour me, with a little bit of a quiz. So I will ask you to just put your hand up for what you think the answer is for each one of these questions. And then we'll sort of take a view on where the room broadly is. So, question number 1. The most important reason for an international fan following the Premier League is A, the prestige of the Premier League. B, following a club or clubs. C, following players. Or D, a love of football. Who thinks A? Who thinks B, clubs? Who thinks C, players? And who thinks D, a love of football? The answer is A. Fans are increasingly motivated by this thing called the Premier League that they have heard about and see and witness and experience in all sorts of different media formats. And that is beginning to be the thing that is bringing people in. In some ways, very similar to how we here in this country regard the NFL and the NBA. It's this sort of mysterious big thing that people are fascinated by. Okay, question 2. How many Premier League fans, their primary interest is associated with gaming, some form of game, whether that be EAFC or fantasy or so on and so forth? Do you think it's A, more than 75%, B, 50 to 75%, C, 25 to 50%, or D, less than 25%? Who thinks A? Who thinks B? Who thinks C? And who thinks D? It is D, less than 25%. So even though the popularity of gaming formats is significant and really important, and the number of people, particularly younger people, that come into a product like the Premier League through playing EAFC or something else, it's only one of many ways that people actually want to engage and participate with the Premier League and with other sporting properties. Okay, question 3. Last season's, did I change it? Yes, the most popular video from the following list, these are Premier League videos last season, was A, Cole Palmer's cold celebration, B, Mo Salah equaling Thierry Henry's goal tally, C, Nicholas Jackson pronouncing his own name, or D, Amad Diallo's winner against Manchester City. Who thinks it was A, Cole Palmer? Who thinks it was B, Mo Salah? Who thinks it was C, Nicholas Jackson? And who thinks it was D, Amad Diallo? The correct answer was C. You're catching on. And the point here is that fans don't behave as you think they might. They are interested in things that surprise us all of the time. I remember back in the day I used to work at Wimbledon, and one of the most popular videos from the whole tournament was a sprinkler exploding and getting some players wet. So you never know what people are going to find interesting. Question 4. The biggest social following for the Premier League outside of the UK is A, Egypt, B, Brazil, C, Nigeria, or D, Indonesia. Who thinks it's A, Egypt, B, Brazil, C, Nigeria, or D, Indonesia? It's a trick question. The answer is all of them, but each on a different platform. So what that hopefully demonstrates is the global reach of a product like the Premier League, but how fans behave and what they want changes depending on the type of environment that you're in and the type of community that exists. And the final question, which sports property had the biggest digital fan growth last year? A, the NBA, B, the Premier League, C, the NFL, or D, Formula One? Who thinks it was A, the NBA, B, the Premier League, C, the NFL, or D, Formula One? This is before the F1 movie, I should add. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't B, the Premier League. And hopefully this demonstrates that while the Premier League has been an extraordinary property, it is still growing, and there is still a lot of work for us to do. And that is what I'm going to hopefully talk to you a little bit about now. So thank you for enduring during that. Hopefully it set the scene a little bit for sort of where we find ourselves. So the Premier League in 2025 ultimately has two extraordinary aspects to it. It manages to produce competitive and compelling football on a week-in, week-out basis, and the ongoing feeling that any club can genuinely be any club. And certainly if you think about trying to predict what happened at the beginning of this past Premier League season and thinking about where some clubs ended up finishing in the league table, that obviously, it was unpredictable. And sport should be unpredictable. It's one of the best things about it. And the Premier League generates extraordinary global interest around the world. It's broadcast in 189 countries, and there are 1.8 billion people around the world who declare themselves to be a fan of the Premier League. But then you look at the world in 2025, and I just found this on the internet. I couldn't quite bring myself to use an AI tool to say, show me a picture that represents the changing nature of consumption. But it is changing. It has changed dramatically. It continues to change dramatically. And sometimes we find ourselves saying, I wish it was like the old days when you just turned on one or two channels and that was it. You were served a wonderful experience. The world that we operate in as individuals, as consumers, as sports fans, is dramatically different from what it used to be. And that has led to a pretty severe burden on the sports fan when you think about what a typical sports fan needs to go through in terms of fragmentation and where they need to go for the type of content that they might be looking for. Whether that is in the build-up and getting excited and ready for something. Maybe you're going off to a sports event and you want to go read about who the characters are. When you're actually there during the game itself, you're having to look at all these different platforms in the immediate aftermath post-game. And then there's all these other things that people can do sort of on the fringes of sport or alongside sport, whether that is gamification, whether that's betting, whether that's indulging in longer form, deeper storytelling, buying things, interaction, so on and so forth. It's a sort of really complicated landscape now that we expect people to understand and navigate. And what we're noticing increasingly is that international fans, people who didn't necessarily grow up with a sort of generational invitation to become a fan, they are more fluid than fixed. And sorry if this sounds a little jargony, but we're very used to this world where you have a fixed allegiance. It's something that's been handed down to you or you've grown up with. There are fixed channels. You absorb the content. You follow and prioritize a single entity within that. And you're very focused on the result. And your weekend is literally made or destroyed by the outcome of that result. In the new world, in a more fluid environment, allegiances are changeable. I don't know how many people sort of in the room might have young children, but when you're desperate for them to really like something that you like, and they do their level best to like the opposite thing that you like, that is how people are behaving. They're changing their allegiances all the time. They want to be on every channel, depending on where they find themselves and where they spend their time. They don't just want to consume, they also want to create and put their spin on whatever the story and the narrative is. Players are increasingly the people that are creating inspiration. And somebody said to me once that we're in the age of the individual, and I guess that's all to do with that. And also values and sort of what it means to be a fan or associated with a certain brand or sports property or product is increasingly important. And I think that was very well reflected in the previous panel. So what we've learned and what we've discovered, and this goes back to the very first question that I asked you all, is that people are attracted to the Premier League for multiple reasons. They no longer exist in a very neat set of cohorts or segments. Every single one of us in this room will have a different relationship with the Premier League for the following reasons. I don't know how many people have ever done the sort of personality insights, colours thing. Anyone give me a nod if you know what I'm talking about? The red, blue, green, yellow. This is a similar sort of model, which is that what makes up somebody's Premier League fandom is, yes, a relationship with a club or a number of clubs. And the more deep that relationship with a club is, the longer you are likely to be a fan, and the more likely you are to spend time and invest your time. But equally important, increasingly important, are players and the stars of the show. Also important is where you live and your relationship, whether that be with the sport of football or with sport in general, and also the community and the culture and the environment that you exist around. How many people participate in Fantasy Premier League because it's a thing that people do at work? I've stopped doing it because I was at the bottom of every single league I was in last year, so we won't talk about that anymore. And then the thing that brings it all together is, as I said, this growing prestige of this product called the Premier League and its aspiration to be the best sporting league in the world. So to wrap up for you, what are we doing about all of this? And this is the beginning of our attempt to meet this need and to meet the fluidity of fandom. Very glad to share that this week we launched a new app for the Premier League and a new website. And this is all about adapting the experience that we can provide to meet the needs of every individual. And it's not necessarily there yet, but it will evolve to become what we're calling a direct individual platform that every fan can shape according to their own unique preferences and the nature of their Premier League fandom, whether it be based on clubs, whether it be based on players, whether it be based on where you live, your community, what's happening, and so on and so forth. So we're going to see. It's going to be an interesting journey to see how people behave and how they react with it. But very much moving into a world where fans are fluid, they are different, and they need and want very different things. And then finally, one of the important things not to neglect is the storytelling that sits all around that and the platforms for discovery that sit all around that. This is a snapshot from some of the localized channels that the Premier League has in 6 or 7 different markets, including the Middle East, South America, India, China, Japan, and the US. And hopefully what this just shows to you is that there is no one single story. It all requires adapting and presenting in a different way to meet how people react and respond in that market. So there you go. That is the fluidity of Premier League fandom. Thank you very much for having me. Hopefully there's some good common themes there. And I would reiterate the sort of comment of the last panel that there's some amazing technology that we can maximize and make use of. But the thing about sport is human connection and human emotion, and that's really what makes it special. So thank you very much.